Okay, everybody, breathe. Everyone take a big deep breath and relax. Shang-Chi is really good and lives up to the hype while simultaneously exceeding expectations in some parts and retreading MCU expectations that sometimes enhance the film but other times hold the film back from greatness. Shang-Chi is just shy of greatness, delivering dazzling visuals and martial arts action along with an incredible cast and what? An actual villain worth remembering? In a Marvel movie? Get out of town! While also struggling with some pacing issues and escalating the fantastical and mystical elements to an almost unbelievable scale that traps itself in some mildly lackluster MCU third act follies. Don't get me wrong, it's visually beautiful, but it's also a little too much and too familiar, especially when contrasted with a gorgeous and unique first act that set Shang-Chi apart from its predecessors and serves as a bold announcement of the character into the MCU. Luckily for Shang-Chi, it's much more Black Panther than, say, Thor 2: The Dark World. Written and directed by Destin Daniel Cretton, known for Short Term 12, which you should definitely watch and get over your unfounded disdain for Brie Larson because she's an incredible actress and you're cheating yourself out of phenomenal films because something about
Hey, Peter Parker.
shatters your fragile masculinity, along with his longtime collaborator Andrew Lanham and screenwriting Hollywood darling David Callahan. That name should sound very familiar, as he was also the screenwriter for Wonder Woman 1984, Mortal Kombat 2021, Zombieland Double Tap, and everyone's favorite Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson movie, Doom. Suffice it to say, he's got his hand in a lot of major projects for having such a spotty record, but luckily for Shang-Chi, very few of the downfalls that plague these aforementioned films come into play here. Though Cretton has cut his teeth on indie dramas instead of big budget blockbusters, he brings a love and deep passion to Shang-Chi. You can tell that Cretton feels connected to the material and truly wants to create something special, even if the MCU itself doesn't always allow for it. Cretton not only creates a visually immersive, fantastical experience for audiences, but tells a great origin story with some stand-up performances and ideas that make Shang-Chi refreshing. There's honestly too much good to do all in one review, and we'd be here forever if we tried to list them all in detail, so you know what that means. Time for speed round on the good. I'm not quite sure how to say this. Manger? Manger? Manga? Is it Simu or Simu? Simu? Am I racist? Everyone here is phenomenal, with Simu delivering a charming and likable performance that announces his welcomed arrival into the MCU as the new face for Phase 4 and one I truly can't wait to see more of. Awkwafina is equally charming, balancing her humor and heart as the plucky comedic relief sidekick by joking when we need her to, but letting the tension and emotion sit when she needs to too. It's refreshing to see a character whose primary goal is to shoulder the jokes and not quip every single opportunity given. This is a Marvel mistake that Shang-Chi avoids, which allows the emotional weight of the narrative to actually build and matter rather than being undercut with an ill-placed joke. Here's looking at you, Korg and Thor Ragnarok. The martial arts action is superb, setting Shang-Chi apart from anything you've ever seen in the MCU. Simu Liu looks great in the fight sequences and actually trained to be a believable and powerful assassin. You will never ever be forgiven for your insolence, Finn Jones. Tony Leung brings complexity and humanity to the villain of Wenwu, something I can't overstate how refreshing it is to actually give a shit about a villain in a Marvel movie. So much so that you actually care about his motivations and he isn't just some guy that wants to take over the world because Leung brings his superior acting chops to this role when it isn't even necessary to go that hard, but he does and we're all the better for it. Manger, along with Michelle Yeoh and pretty much anyone with anything to do here, is great, and I can't wait to visit this world again when it all comes back around for the inevitable sequel. The visuals are good, the acting is great, the martial arts is exciting, and the story, while familiar, is a triumphant return to the origin story form that we haven't really experienced since Marvel Phase 1 over 13 years ago. Yeah, we are that old. If I have any complaints about Shang-Chi, it's that the second act comes to a screeching halt and stumbles about trying to get all the pieces in place for the finale, which is also part of my complaint as well. The first act is jam-packed with great fight scenes and fun character development, but the second act has a little too much explaining to do and the film slows down more than it should. I'm all fine with taking time to flesh out your world, but the film takes its foot off the gas a little too much. The third act does ramp everything back up, and while sure, there's some great hand-to-hand combat filled with emotional and purposeful standoffs that are far better than anything else that's about to happen, Shang-Chi gets a little too into their mysticism and studio third act to be for everyone. Without spoiling what happens, I can say this to sum up the final act: kaiju battle. No, I will not contextualize that, but it definitely takes a hard left into big, loud, clanging CGI that feels somewhat out of place considering the rest of the film rested on the skill of the fight choreography and the actors actually doing cool stuff. It's not enough to make the film bad, but it is enough to leave you a little wanting, particularly for more of how the film started. Shang-Chi is a bold new announcement for Asian representation in American films, blending of Hong Kong cinema influence on American filmmaking, and all of the actors involved in furthering the MCU itself. With so many expectations laid on the film, it's pretty impressive for it to to get even that much right. Shang-Chi is good. It's really, really good, and sets the precedent for what we can expect from the future. Last little side notes. There are some of the best cameos I've ever seen in a Marvel film to date, and all of them are totally worth it and well done. There's a lot not featured in the trailer, so if you're thinking all the action is burned to hype up the film, you'll be pleasantly surprised with how much they didn't show. The powers and skill sets of the rings are done really well, and they don't waste too much time trying to over-explain how they function or where they come from, and they're pretty damn cool to watch in action the whole time. Yes, they absolutely addressed the fiasco of Iron Man 3 and corrected without retconning it completely and making it all make sense. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I'm just gonna say it anyway. Wong is the new MVP, and I need him to get a solo film like yesterday. And yes, it wouldn't be a Disney movie that features mythical creatures and dragons if it didn't have a cute, cuddly, marketable one, and your kids are going to beg you for Morris merchandise when it hits the shelf. Seriously, start looking now for a 6-legged, no-face, 2 sets of wings plush or backpack, because there's no way this adorable dog chicken thing won't be the newest addition to your Grogu and pork display. Point is, Shang-Chi is great, worth the wait, and delivers on just about everything it promised it would. If this is the future of Marvel, then sign me up. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go drunkenly karaoke Hotel California.
Shang-Chi.
Shang.
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 S-H-A-N-G. Shang.
That's what I said.
Run it. Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings.